Hello, Diesel Pascual from the Philippines. The highlights so far for me for APYS is the Shark Tank sessions because I get to learn about so many new innovations from homeschooled young people. They also like how young people, as we were able to give our own recommendations and ideas to the table.
Hi, my name is Pawatapum Bright. I'm a delegate from Thailand. So what I found really interesting about this event is the youth symposium yesterday because I found it's quite engaging and really interactive. Like young people really, voice out the ideas and give out their opinions to decision makers and high level at ADP, which I found quite thought-provoking and also really insightful.
Hi, I'm Rohi. I'm from the Philippines. I'm a chemical engineer researcher from the De La Salle University. So far, APYS has been successful in making our voices heard. The activities that were held for us were engaging, it empowers us, and it also tackles the critical issues, especially in the water sector.
Digital infrastructure.
Desperately trying to find information.
Hello Welcome to this edition of the International Water Association's YWP Get Together. Today is a special day as it coincides with the celebration of International Youth Day. And this year's theme is local youth actions for the SDGs and beyond. And so we thought that it is only right that we highlight initiatives that support the inclusion of youth voices in the water sector. So I would like to welcome you all. I am Chihan Al-Shidifat, your moderator for today. I am from IWA YWP Philippines. You would know us as the Philippine Young Water Professionals. So this session is made possible through the collaboration of the International Water Association, IWA YWP Philippines, the Asian Development Bank, and also PRUNFOS. So I would be introducing you to a few house rules to make sure that you have a meaningful webinar experience for today. So you may refer to this slide for the values and behaviors encouraged in IWA events such as today. So just remember that at all times, please remain respectful and engage thoughtfully with one another. Next slide, please. And there will be an opportunity later to actually ask questions to our panelists. So make sure to use the Q&A function for that. Introduce yourselves briefly in the chat box. I can see people introducing themselves. It's okay to share social media and contact details. We want to make this a collaborative environment. However, we also recognize that this is a public webinar. And so for at any point that you feel unsafe and if you have safeguarding concerns, just drop a message in the chat box starting with safeguarding concern and we will attend to your needs. Next slide, please. A quick introduction of our speakers. Next slide. Thank you. So the session for today is entitled Championing a Meaningful Youth Engagement in the Water Sector. So I would like to introduce you to our speakers/champions. We have Ines Preda from PRUNFOS, who will be talking about a framework to make MYE efforts to make organizations accountable for MYE initiatives. We have Erica Joan Menez from ADB, who will be speaking about the ADB MYE initiative as a whole together with APYS. Tanya Hoiser, who will be speaking about the YEP program. Vivek Raman from ADB also, who will be speaking about ADO. And we'll also hear narratives from Michaela Chan and Daniel about their experience in the Young Experts program and as an ADO young author, respectfully. Next slide, please. All right. How are we lining up today? So you're here on number 1. This is a session introduction and housekeeping. So first, we will be introducing you to the Iowa PRUNFOS Fellows MYE Accountability Framework, what it is about and how it came together. And then we'll move forward with different initiatives on meaningful youth engagement, starting with the YEP program, APYS, and ADO, and last but not the least, the Water and Youth Action Agenda that was shaped through the APYS workshops. So in the next hour, it is all going to be about meaningful youth engagement in SDG 6 particularly. So without further ado, I will hand you over to our first panelist of the session. Next slide, please. Okay, join me in welcoming Ines Breda to talk about the Iowa PRUNFOS Meaningful Youth Engagement Accountability Framework. Ines, the floor is yours. Welcome to the session.
Hey, happy Youth Day. Thank you for having me today. I hope everything is okay with next slide a lot of times because I have a lot of slides, but it will go fast, okay? I will start by asking you to take a link that I dropped on the chat, asking to join music from all over the world on water. It's just a playlist that I'm gathering, so anytime I have an opportunity, I just ask for it. So if you know music that touches upon the value of water and how much it makes you dance or sing or cry, whatever it is, then just add it to the playlist, please. So next slide, and let's just kick off. Perfect. So the IWA Grundfos Fellowship is a fellowship that started around 22-23, and it has been focused on empowering youth engagement all over the world. And the first cohort we are currently running the second, had the opportunity to go to the UN Water Conference in New York, which at the time was just this big thing because there was a long time following till from the first water conference to this one, and everyone was very excited about that. Can you run it again? Next slide. Perfect. So you see here us very excited. There's more than these. Okay, these were just the faces that were casually walking down the street, but we were very excited. This was the first time that we met, and it was incredible to share the experience with so many different profiles and people from all over the world. Some of them that I knew, but that I admired. So it was really nice to share the streets, walking the streets with them. But we were very excited because of one particular thing. Next slide. So what we were excited about was that this UN Water Conference was very interesting because it calls for action-oriented commitments. So basically, it was asking people coming to the UN and also outside to contribute to the water action agenda, a list of commitments that were aiming to change the world by bringing action closer to the reality, which is something that that it's quite challenging. People commit to things, but one thing is committing, another thing is actually doing. So we were really excited to see this movement going on. Next slide, please. And it was amazing. I mean, it gathered about 800 commitments, so we were super excited about it. And it kind of felt like we did it. Next slide, please. But you see there that part of the water action agenda was actually to activate and be inclusive towards youth. So we were very interested in finding out which of these commitments were targeting youth and what they were doing, what they were about. Next slide, please. And that's when we figured out that one thing is commitment, another thing is what actually happens. And we decided to we realized that many of them were not being accomplished or pursued, and no one was taking accountability for any action. Next slide, please. We did like an overall assessment of the commitments, and 3 data points that I wanted to share here is that 25% of the commitments were explicitly involving youth as partners and 27 as beneficiaries, meaning the ones that the commitment was targeting action towards. And then 73% of them were actually involving vulnerable communities, and that includes women, children, indigenous, poor, etc. And 18% of the commitments were targeting Asia and the Pacific. So we thought that 25% of commitments towards youth and 27 as beneficiaries is actually targeting a quite high amount. If you thought this time was this was around the time where we had this youth movement called 30-30-30, meaning we wanted 30% of the workforce being under 30 by 2030. So 27 is quite close to 30. So we're quite happy about it. But the reality is that, next slide, please. We needed help to unlock this, right? So we saw that the commitments were made, which was already a win. But we needed to understand, okay, how can we help them realize them and take them to action? Next slide, please. And that's when the word accountability came, right? That's when we thought about, okay, we need to make sure that there is an obligation or willingness of the individuals or the organizations to accept the responsibility for their actions, decisions, and behaviors. And we thought, we had a very interesting conversation. I think this happened in December 23 at Grundfos headquarters. We were, I think, of course, some were having wine, others were having water, whatever. And we were thinking about, okay, someone needs to watch out for this. And we pitched this to the then COO of Grundfos, one of the people who were really engaged with the fellowship. And we told him that we need to not like watch and be a police towards the commitments, but actually be an enabler, because that's how we will progress, right? And that's when we decided to develop what we called the accountability framework. Next slide, please. Which is based on basically 7 pillars. And these are already used from references. So this is work previously done. We just did the use context. And they touch upon responsibility, answerability, trust, transparency, consequences, learning and improvement, and authority of power. And we were hoping that next slide, please. This would allow for a conversation that, it was a self-assessment of the level of engagement that a particular organization has. It can be used as a way to identify the opportunities for youth engagement and maybe gaining inspiration of quantifiable indicators for youth engagement. Next slide, please. We were really hoping that this would become kind of the bridge between the optional self-reporting progress of the commitments and actually achieving a collaboration that drives the realization of the SDG targets. This was the ambition. So next slide. I don't want you to get lost into the entire table that's on the background, but it's just to showcase you how the framework looks like. It's not something super complex. This is a table with 7 pillars that gives you a range of accountability level from low to high, and then key indicators on how you can measure them. So for example, here you have on the table the responsibility pillar, and then on the far right you will have what are the indicators. For example, the number of youth engaged with clear role in the commitment. This is something tangible, something that honestly, if it's a person who developed the project, within 1 hour you can go through all the pillars and really have a fair assessment of where you'd stand. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we run this already through an alpha phase. So 6 of the organizations that committed to a specific goal were approached and did an assessment and draw the conclusions necessary based on the accountability framework. It was really interesting conversations, and I believe that it was helpful for the organizations to understand where they stand on their understanding of what youth engagement actually means. Next slide, please. One that I think is super important, because this one came up to us, one of the conclusions, which was redefining youth. You play a huge role on this, right? You redefine youth every day that you engage with a senior. And, the UN classifies youth between 15 and 24. Here at IWA is until 35, or generally in the water sector. But you have to make sure that you disconnect from the existing bias around youth. Next slide, please. You see, when you go to Thesaurus and you Google what are the synonyms of young, you will find words like adolescence, inferior, juvenile, raw, tender, newborn. And, well, also things like unpractical, unripe, unfinished, night-aged, imagine. And if you go to the antonyms, you will find experienced, or mature, or sophisticated. And I do think that we're all sophisticated. So I just want you to have this in mind, that this exists. And so when you associate yourself as young, not always is positive, right? So you have to make it positive. Make the experience of young be good. Next slide, please. I just wanted to share an image of all the team that actually put the effort, and share this QR code in case you want to read the full report, which includes the notes from the meetings with the different alpha groups, so that you can have an understanding of how the process went and the key take-home messages. Next slide. Thank you so much, and I look forward to continue talking with you.
Thank you so much, Ines, for that presentation. I agree, it's a really useful tool to make MYE not just a trend, but to really follow through with our efforts. So to everybody, you can post your questions to panelists in the Q&A function. But for now, I'll hand over the floor to Erica Joan Memies from ADB to start talking about the MYE initiatives in our organization. Erica, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Jihan. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So I'll be sharing some highlights of ADB's meaningful youth engagement initiatives and how these create pathways for young people like us to play a central role in shaping the future of the water sector. First of all, happy International Youth Day. And let's move on to the next slide and talk more about meaningful youth engagement. So when we talk about meaningful youth engagement, we go beyond the token participation. It's not just about inviting young people to events. It's about giving youth both the seat and say in spaces where solutions are shaped. It's about integrating youth perspectives and leaderships into policies, programs, decision-making processes, and making sure that young people aren't just present, but actually influencing the outcomes. As you can see here, here's like a process or a continuum on how meaningful engagement happens. So first is we need to take into account that we put on safeguarding mechanisms or doing no harm for young people. Next is so we need to provide them a safe and conducive space for young people, and there should be representation and diversity as we leave no one behind. So young people, youth is not a homogeneous population. So sometimes young people are even tagged as marginalized group. So we need to mainstream youth participation and ensure that we leave no one behind. Once we engage with young people in different decision making processes. Next is to accelerate youth development. So young people are not beneficiaries or not just beneficiaries. They could be partners for development. And lastly, that's when meaningful youth engagement. Once we have all of these being addressed or being part of an initiative or engagement, that's when we have young people as co-creators or decision makers. And into the next slide, we will talk more about how ADB, MYE, how in ADB has rests on these three main pillars. So the first is we would want to elevate youth voices. We would want to create high visibility platforms where young people can also share their narratives and influence decisions. Next is embedding youth engagement in operations. So ADB has different types of support with our primary client as the governments. So we do have technical assistances, loan or grants. And this is where, when we engage young people, we systematically integrate youth roles and perspectives into ADB's projects and initiatives. Lastly, is to support the development of new generation of water leaders. So investing in capacity building, mentorship, and um, a scholarship that empower young professionals to be equipped to lead change. And in the next slide, we'll see meaningful youth engagement in the project cycle. So a project cycle in Asian Development Bank is composed of these parts: the country or regional partnership strategy, design and preparation, approval, implementation, and evaluation. It takes a whole new session to discuss each of these parts, but we have identified here on how young people could be engaged. And for sure, these are not everything that it does not encapsulate everything on how young people could be engaged. But this is how we envision for young people to be engaged in each part of the project cycle in Asian Development Bank. Lastly, I'll give you a case on where, next slide, please, on where one case study of on how youth has been engaged in the bank. So if I'm not mistaken, this ended in 2021 or 2022. So We had a pilot demonstration of a youth-led approaches through the Bagmati River Basin Management Program. So a total of almost 1,900 or 1,899 young people participated and developed 32 locally tailored projects, with 19 of them actually implemented across the Bagmati River Basin. So this is in Nepal. And as you can, what we did here is we had an evaluation wherein we scaled, or we checked with young people on how their knowledge, attitude, and practice has increased. As we train them, we involved them throughout the project. And there's a 30-point increase when we were able to involve them from the start of the project, designing and up to the evaluation of the project itself. So that's one great story about meaningful youth engagement. And I'll turn over to my colleague also from the Asian Development Bank to discuss further another on how we do engage young people also. So over to you, Tanya.
Thank you very much, Eka, for this introduction of ADB's meaningful youth engagement. Welcome everyone. I'm very excited to be here and to see almost 20 or 100. We're almost hitting the 100 people in the call from all over the world, which makes me decide to do a little step back. Eka explained about the activities of ADB in relation to meaningful youth engagement. But maybe to set the core, ADB, Asian Development Bank, like the World Bank or like the African Development Bank or the Inter-American Development Bank, we support governments with their infrastructure and investment projects. So we provide loans, we help them preparing them to a certain quality. But of course, the capacity in the government to be able to develop that and to implement that is also very important. And contributing to that development, so the capacity of the staff, we like to do that with the Young Expert Program called YWP. I shared this picture because this is a team of young professionals. I'm in the middle. Actually, I am a YWPer myself. I always say you're a YWPer for life. So the YWP program started, I think, about 12 years ago. And I was the third batch. I think they now have up to 35 batches with young professionals that were trained by the YWP program. I will dive into deep. But I wanted to share that for me, it changed my life. And I really believe that everyone who gets this opportunity will really pass it on. So it's not only about being a young expert in part of this program for 1 year. You'll become part of a network and you will build the network, right? You will share your experiences and you make sure that you can empower other people. Okay, if you go to the next slide, I will dive a little bit more into why we do this. Because with our work, preparing these loans together with the governments in developing member countries in Asia and the Pacific, we also notice that many countries are facing challenges, right? There is not enough workforce, or they're missing skills, or there are some knowledge barriers. Actually, innovation is not coming from the ground. The work is often done very conservative, especially in the water sector. And there are not many opportunities for peer-to-peer learning and so on. So we want to boost that. And we think working with the Young Expert Program, the concept that is developed by the Netherlands Water Partnership, is a great way to do that. So if we go to the next slide. That's why we started a pilot last year November. It's still ongoing with Miguela and Georgia. And Miguela will take you along with her experiences. So what is a YWP program about? It's actually an exchange program for young professionals, young water professionals. So what we do, we match a young expert from a government department, for example, the Ministry of Water Resources in India. We match them with an international expert, could come from Germany, or a regional expert, so maybe from Indonesia, or a national expert from India themselves, which is external. So this person is not yet working for the government. So there will be this young professional from the government, will be matched with an external young professional, and they will work together for 1 year in the ministry. But before starting their 1 year collaboration, they will go on a training, focusing on soft skills, project management, negotiations without power, all these skills that you need actually to develop professionally as well. Because technical skills we learn on the job, and you're expected to have that based on your studies. But the soft skills is a different story. So they will be on a 2 weeks training. 1 week is actually training. The other one is focusing more on your development plan and how your future will look like. You will also get a coach and a mentor during the whole year, which will help you to further develop yourself and also to share struggles that you have during this year. And I think it's a great program for ADB because it also helps us in the collaboration with the government. It helps us develop a pipeline of potential projects. And yeah, I think it's just a very pleasant way to work with young professionals this way. So pilot ongoing on in Vanuatu. But if we go to the next slide, we can also tell a little bit more about why this is a sustainable investment for ADB and any other organizations in young experts. Like I said, I'm one of them. So it's a proof of concept, isn't it? I'm here now and sharing my story with you. And so are all the other Yeppers. I think over 1,000 now sharing their story and spread the word. It's not only ADB doing this. There are more than 200 organizations already involved in the YEP program, like UNICEF as well. And I think a lot of private sector companies, NGOs, universities, they all try to help young professionals with the YEP program. Like I said, the network is very, very valuable. And what I think is also important, we start with a pilot. We're actually now processing another pilot, and then it has an opportunity to grow together with the other development banks, perhaps. Let's go to the next slide. So like I said, we have another pilot starting up, phase 2, which is in Nepal, where we have 2 pairs, so total 4 Yeppers, and 3 of them visited the Netherlands for their training. I think they're also in the call, so I'm very proud on them. They're just starting now. So this month, they're starting together in 2 different departments in the ministry in Nepal. I want to thank JJ, our colleague who made this happen as well. And yeah, it's now up to us as ADB, and hopefully with partners in the call, how we can further scale this up. Can we make a tailor-made program for MDBs? Are there other partners that also want to be involved in this? And hopefully by next year, we can set up a bigger program. I think I hand over now to our Yepper in Vanuatu. Michaela, are you there?
Hello. Yes.
Hi, over to you.
Thank you. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Yeah, so thanks, Tanya, firstly for your support and everything, and then also for giving so much information about the YEP program that I did have to. So I joined the YEP program in October and November last year, and it's been a really great experience for me since joining. So firstly, in October, as Tanya mentioned, I spent 2 weeks in the Netherlands with Joshua from Vanuatu, and also with a big group of other young water professionals working across the whole world, really. And that was a great starting point for the program, and getting to meet so many different young people who are really passionate about water and working in different parts of the sector, and understanding that even though we work in different contexts, we all face very similar challenges, and being able to share our experiences, and also to just build a very close network where we're all friends and we're still keeping in touch like regularly now. So when we're having problems, being able to discuss that on a video call or on WhatsApp, just when we're in the office and things, that's very nice and helpful. And then obviously the big part for me was moving across the world. So I'm originally from the UK, but now I'm in Vanuatu in the South Pacific. And this has been a whole big learning experience for me as well. I've put some pictures on the screen to give an idea of all the big range of people that I get to work with. So the middle photo at the top is me and the technical unit team in the Department of Water Resources here. I've been working directly within this team with the young engineers and the senior engineers, being able to support them on the development of design standards, the development of designs, carrying out surveys, and all kinds of the day-to-day works as well, and working with other donor agencies, including UNICEF, the Australian government, and the New Zealand government has been really interesting to learn more about like the international development space. Then underneath that, there's a photo of me at a community meeting. So that's also been a very interesting experience. I've picked up Bislama, the local language, quite quickly by necessity. And yeah, being able to actually go out into the community and talk to them about the challenges that they're facing with water and understand how we in the department can actually work with the community to involve them more in the whole design process, as well as coming up with operations and maintenance plans for long-term sustainability of systems has been insightful, because coming from the UK, I think we already have a lot of our systems in place and things are very decentralized, but no, centralized. But here, systems are more decentralized, sitting within the communities, and it's great to get an understanding of the day-to-day struggles that they face and like the disparities between what we understand at the government level as the challenges and what the community sees as the challenges. Additionally, it's been great as well working with Tanya and the rest of the ADB team just to get a greater idea of what ADB actually does. Because before this, I was working in the private sector, and I had an interest in international development, but I didn't quite like, I knew that multilateral development banks existed, but it's great to know more about how they work, the kinds of projects they do, funding mechanisms, and it just opens up like a whole new world of possibilities. So yeah, the team within ADB have been very supportive in also sharing those lessons too. But I think the best part about the YEP program is being able to just sit down with such a variety of people and being taken seriously at all levels. And I think that's partly just because of the language of calling it a young expert program, is like I can sit down with the Director General of the department and we can have a conversation about where I think there's challenges in the department in terms of planning and resourcing and challenges I've seen. So for example, in December last year, we had a quite big earthquake in Vanuatu, and I was able to jump in the day after and start helping with the response. And from my own experience, I felt that there were better ways that the response could be handled, and I had the opportunity to just sit down with the lead of the department who was leading the response and just say, I think that I can support in this way. I have these skills, and I know that you also do it in this way. So maybe we can come together and come up with a solution that works and brings out the efficiencies of both of our ways of doing it, so that we can make sure that we get water back to the communities as quickly as possible. And yeah, I think I'm running out of time, so I'm happy to answer any questions after. But overall, this has been a really great experience, and I'm really grateful to ADB for everything. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much, Michaela and Tanya, for introducing the YEP program. So our YEPers, and I really liked and appreciated how you talked about the youth being embedded and the language being called the Young Experts Program. To be able to sit side by side with the more senior or experienced professionals, it's really great. We're moving halfway into our program this afternoon or this morning, and I would hand over to my colleague Erica to talk about APYS. Erica, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Jihan. Hello, I'm back. So now we'll take a closer look about one of our flagship youth programs or platforms at the Asian Development Bank, the Asia the Pacific Youth Symposium. Next slide, please. So it all started during the pandemic in 2020, wherein we had a partnership with Plan International, and back then it was UNICEF to create a platform for young people to talk about how their experiences during pandemic, given that we're not allowed to have face-to-face interactions then. So it's aligned with ADB Strategy 2030, particularly on resilience, innovation, and inclusive growth. And it has become a space where youth governments, development partners, and civil society co-create policy and program recommendations. Next slide, please. So this year, it's kind of the very unique, since we are in partnership with the ADB Water and Urban Development Forum, or AWOF 2025, and it was held from the 27th to 30th of May wherein our partners are the Philippine Young Water Professionals and Plan International. So this year's theme was Flowing Forward, Youth Catalyzing Water Resilience. And we had around 60 young people all over Asia and the Pacific, were both young water professionals and young water advocates, wherein we talk about how young people could be engaged in the water sector, especially on water resilience. Next slide, please. So, just a very brief background. So, EPYS is really a social dialogue wherein we provide a space for youth, government, development partners, and the civil society to have that dialogue or to co-develop policy, programmatic, and financing recommendations for water resilience. And on the next slide, we'll see the journey on how APYS and AWA 2025 has happened and where we had engaged young people in. So we recruited 6 youth consultants to be part of the organizing team of APYS, and together with a youth serving international organization, Plan International, and the youth-led organization, the Philippine Young Water Professionals, we are able to craft this very well-designed platform for youth to talk about water resilience. So we started on the 27th of May, wherein we had a reverse Shark Tank, wherein project officers from the Asian Development Bank presented their projects to young water professionals. Then we also had mentoring sessions, and then we had sessions on the development of the EDB Action Agenda, our Water and Youth Operational Strategy. We also had a session with the ADO authors, or the Asia Water Development Outlook, young authors, and I think Vivek will talk more about this later on. And this is actually ADB's signature publication when it comes to the water sector. And during the wider and bigger ADB Water and Urban Development Forum, we also had youth sessions. So there are lunch sessions that are hosted by Plan International and PIPE. And we also had a debate of wherein young people were part of the debate together with technical experts or experts in the field. And lastly, we also have a trivia night or quiz night and a Shark Tank, wherein young people presented their solutions when it comes to urban development. So on the next slide, we'll also see there is also this one session during the ADB Water and Urban Development Forum, wherein young people have participated, and we had this word cloud wherein they ask, where is the youth in all of this dialogue and everything that we do? So it's a great reflection for us on how do we engage young people in different platforms, and why do we all invest in this effort in MYE from like APYS? It's because we know that young people bring fresh ideas, they are digital savvy, and they are open to collaboration that are essential for tackling water challenges, especially for our region. So I think that's all from our end. There's a lot more to unpack about APYS, but thank you everyone. And if you have questions, please feel free to drop it in our Q&A section. Over to you, Jihan.
Thank you, Eka. I can remember that very clearly. We were talking about strategic partnerships, and that question, where is the youth, popped up. And yeah, I'll hand over the session to Vivek Raman to talk about the Asia Water Development Outlook. Vivek, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jihan. And my name is Vivek, and very nice to be here. And Aika, I don't think that presentation captures the full energy that was happening during the ADB Water and Urban Forum. It was something ADB had never seen before. And the trivia night, for those of you who missed it, was truly spectacular. I'm here with just a few minutes to tell you a little bit about the Asia Water Development Outlook and how we are bringing in some youth engagement into that and why we thought this was important. So, the ADB's Asian Water Development Outlook, which we call ADO, happens once every 5 years or so. So if you've ever wondered what is the current water security status of the country that you live in, of course, if whether you're in the Asia and the Pacific, what kind of projects or plans have actually worked and how they have improved the score, this is the report for you. What we are trying to do, and Jihan, if you just keep shifting the slides, is it we're trying to take what is a very academic kind of an exercise, which is deep, quantitative, deep methodology on various dimensions around water security, and convert that into what could possibly be a practitioner's guide, right? And how do you help these countries along this journey of becoming what we call a water secure nation? So the idea, of course, was this is a methodology, as you can see here. This is the fifth edition, a methodology that's being refined every time. So the idea was, what should we do this time that would lend itself to a bit more of an impact and make it a bit more useful? So obviously, the team, and particular credit to Tanya, who said that can we bring in an angle for the youth to be involved in this as well? And after a bit of brainstorming, the idea that came about was um, two. One, and I see some of those young authors in this call, and I'm sure they'll be happy to see how their work's been represented in the report. Is we got youth boxes across all the aspects of this report, and so that was one. And the second thing we did is we also, while these kind of reports, and Jihan, you can just keep moving the slides, and I'll just talk about it. While these kind of reports are so heavy in terms of the process, you need a very thorough peer review. We thought we should also bring in some youth to review this from their lens, right? Like what could be missing in these methodologies? Is there a blind spot that we haven't seen? So that's been taking place as well. And the experience has been very, very rewarding. So along with these partners that have worked with us, we are very happy to acknowledge the youth authors for this report, as well as the youth peer reviewers. And it's just been a very, very positive journey, and both with the ADB Water Forum as well as with AWDO, to kind of just give some practical examples of how youth can actually be involved in what we think is a very, very complicated report, right? And it just took a little bit of an effort and some brainstorming with the team member to say what roles could the youth play. And we are happy. And if all of you are interested in learning what these findings are, we are going to be doing a session in the Stockholm Water Week, which we are calling like a pre-launch. And the actual launch will be at the IWA conference in December, where we'll be able to tell you the top performers, uh, who did what in rural household water security, how does this relate with climate change, how does this relate with agricultural water security, environmental water security, and hopefully you'll all find it useful. And please do join our session and also follow us on ADB Water. And one last point is for all of those folks who are joining from the Philippines, the 2020 AWDO results is actually on display at the Ayala Museum at the Fairwater exhibit. And I'll drop the link to the website here. It's in the Ayala Museum in Makati, and the exhibit closes August 31st, sorry. So please do go and engage with some of the other aspects of water security beyond just AWDO. And this whole exhibit is targeting school children and the youth. So again, that's a great example of how we've been able to bring in some youth into what we can think of as a traditional work program. Yeah, with that, I'll stop, Jihan, and thank you very much for this opportunity to everybody. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Vivek. And yeah, thank you for shedding a light on a very important report I feel like everybody would resonate with, and really having the opportunity of including youth voices, young water professionals in that in putting together that report. So I'll hand over the session now to Daniel, who is one of the ADO Young authors and was also part of APYS, to give us a bit of a narrative and experience sharing. Daniel?
Yeah, thank you, Jihan. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all online. I'm Daniel. I'm a lecturer in environmental health at Gadjah Mada University, Indonesia, and I want to share briefly about my experience as a young author of the EUDO report. Vivek already introduced a bit about the EUDO report. Next slide, please, Jihan. Yeah, Vivek already introduced about the EUDO report, and the ADB published every 5 years, and the latest publications was in 2020, and now they want to publish a new report in 2025, as already mentioned by Vivek, that they want to involve young author as a contributors to write the youth text box in the report, and that's how we are involved in the projects because actually the report are written by a senior water professionals that have decades or many years of experience in the water sectors, but they now want to include young water professionals to be the contributors. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a little bit the story how I involved in the project. So I follow Tanya on LinkedIn and I saw her post, I think around March this year. So basically, as ADB looking for 5 young authors to contribute to the EUDO 2025 report, and I was interested and submitted all the documents to the systems. And after that, ADB staff email us, and we had an interview with them. And yes, we are selected to be the young author. That is the overall process of the selection process. So I will encourage all of you to follow senior water professional in LinkedIn to get more information. Maybe there's an opportunity in LinkedIn that you can join. Next slide, Jihan. Yeah, so there are 5 young authors. You can see from the picture here. There are 2 people from Indonesia, and there are the other 3 friends from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And if you notice from the slide that Vivek showed previously, that there are 5 key dimensions that show the National Water Security Index in the Asia Pacific. So for myself, I focus on the key KD1, the key dimension 1 or element 1, which is the rural household water security, and the other 4 young authors, they are also responsible for other key dimensions of the National Security Index. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, but we are not only writing a text box, but we also need to attend the Asia Pacific Youth Symposium, the APYS, that was held just one day before the ADB Water and Urban Development Forum in Manila. So in this symposium, the 5 of us, we led discussions with about 50, 60 young water professionals, mainly from Philippines, but also I found some people from Thailand and Indonesia. So during the discussion, we discussed about the experience that they feel, or any kind of insight reflections that the young water professional feel in the fields. And then we can get some inspirations, any kind of reflections inside that we can put in the text box that we want to write in the EUDO report. Next slide, please. Yeah, and after that, we also participate in the EUDO master classes at the EWUF. So in these master classes, we learn more deeply about the methods and about everything that to calculate the water security index in the Asia Pacific. We got explanations from the main consultants and expert, and for myself it is very important because I can have a discussion with senior water expert and all the consultants about the methodologies, etc. I'm coming from the academia background, so I think it's very important to learn something during the master classes. Next slide, please. Yeah, and another thing that we need to do is we need to build a connection with new people. This 4 picture I just show from the top picture. They are the picture taken during our Zoom meeting with the senior consultant from University of Oxford. And the below picture, we met with international expert. We discuss with them. We get in touch with them. I think it's very crucial for us, especially for us from the global south. We have a chance to make a connections with top researcher at the global north. So for me, it's very important, and it's very a useful moment for me to increase my network. Next slide, please. Yeah, as a conclusions, I would say that there are many reasons why we need to involve the young water professional. But from my experience during the report, these three are the reason why we need to include them. The first thing is because we need to equip young people with new knowledge and skills. I remember during the discussions in the APYS, one of the important reason why young people they are not involved in the projects because they have limited skill and knowledge. So I think by involving them in the water projects, we give them the opportunity to learn something, to give them a new skill and develop new knowledge, etc. And another thing, I think it's also important from my experience that we need to build a new connections. So in my case, I remember after the AWOF in Manila, 1 2 weeks after that, I contacted one of new college that I know from the AWOF, and I invite them to collaborate in writing a research proposal together. So I think it's very important to build connections as a young water professional. And another thing, this chance is very useful for young water professional because it gives us a platform or a moment or event to share our voice, to share our experience and anything that we feel in the fields. Because sometimes young people we have no platform, we have no chance to share our experience, and I think this is very crucial moment for us. So lastly, yes, I just want to say that young water professional should not just be the spectators or objects, but rather should be innovators, key actors, and also innovator in the water sector. I think that's all from me. Back to you, Jihan. Thank you.
Mhm. Yes, thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing your experience. We're headed towards the last deep dive session for this webinar, and I invite my colleague Tanya Weiser to talk about the Water and Youth Action Agenda, where it's at, as this is it used like inputs from young water professionals during APYS to be shaped. So, Tanya, over to you.
Thank you, Jihan, and I will keep it very short. So we have a few minutes for questions as well. Let's go to the next slide. Because if you value water, you should value youth. And the coming months, we're going to explore if meaningful youth engagement will really catalyze investments in the water solutions. Will it boost sustainability because of the longer term ownership with young generations? Innovations, as mentioned by Daniel. And will it promote real new perspectives for the generations to come? I think as ADB, we are excited that more than 50%, more than half of the world population is living in our region. So we really feel the urge to take action. That's why over the last year, including the activities at the Asia Pacific Youth Symposium and the ADB Water and Urban Development Forum, we really worked on an action agenda. So if we go to the next slide. This action agenda is a work in progress. I want to thank also ADB's NGO Civil Society Center for their support with Eka and Alana and Celine and the team. Because this was a co-production between ADB operations working on sector projects, water projects, as well as our NGO team. And actually we have 4 highlights I want to touch on. I'm not going to explain everything on this slide because of the time, but build government capacity through young talent. That is actually what I presented in the YEP program as one of the options to do this. But we also need to get more clarity whether the power of the youth is really there, right? What is the value, the socioeconomic value, the reasoning? We have examples of case studies, but we don't have really quantitative data what the value of the youth is. So that's something we're going to work on, and hopefully with partners. So if you have research done already on that topic, let us know, because we're really interested to quantify the value of the youth in water projects. So we need your help on that to demonstrate the power of the youth. If we go to the next slide, of course, we want to develop projects with the youth. Consultancy positions. I know it's hard when you're young, you don't have enough experience. So how can you ever compete with people with 20, 30, 40 years of working experience in the sector? We want to facilitate that with a pool of young experts for young water professionals and experts in the field of meaningful youth engagement with framework contracts and so on. So actually, we're going to look inside of ADB. How can we take away some of those business barriers to create better and easier opportunities for young professionals and youth-led organizations who don't have experience with our very complicated consultancy management systems to how to do this. So that's not solved tomorrow, right? But we're going to work on that to make that happen. And then last but not least is, of course, this spark innovation. And we really, really want to do more with innovation in the water sector. And I think our team within ADB strategy and partnerships is very, very keen to do that. You heard Vivek talking. I think he's one of the driving forces behind it, together with Jihan, to set up the ADB's accelerated innovation approach. And definitely water and youth will be part of that. So having said that, I think that's in a nutshell what we're going to do with this action agenda. We're putting it all in more detail on paper and we're working it out. But I'm quite excited that we're getting this far. And in general, happy that we can share it on this very special day of the year. Thank you, Jihan.
Yeah, that's very nice. Thank you, Tanya. I invite all the panelists to please switch on their videos. We're heading into the Q&A section. We might be going a little bit over time, but I would be asking a few questions so that we can have some meaningful conversations. So I think the gist of today's session is talking about initiatives that already exist. One of the questions that we have is forward-looking. How do we ensure that meaningful youth engagement is sustained, and what potential opportunities are there in the future? Think Tanya and Ines could answer that question.
I could try. I can give it a go. I think one thing is ensure communication across our generation with regards to existing opportunities. I mean, not being afraid to share opportunities. I think this is super important because sometimes we feel like, there's a good opportunity, I will send a CV or I send an application, but we don't share with others. So I think the spirit of sharing the opportunities with others is really important. And the second, to share the knowledge that you've gathered so that we don't feel like we are starting from, the zero all the time, but we're actually building. The third one, and I think this is very important for us to have an honest conversation about, is on how we respond to tokenism. Sometimes I receive, even though I already have gray hair and I'm past the 35, I receive invitation, we want you to come to an expert board to talk about youth and to talk about how youth looked at this problem. And I'm like, I'm not even an expert on that topic. I'm not going to talk about it. So we shouldn't just say yes because people are labeling us as youth and we go. We should select what we know what to talk and sit from a position of expertise rather than age. We can definitely bring, by being new in the sector, what that brings, the energy of being new, of being hopeful, of being ambitious, of what is our perspective to the future, but always from the expertise point of view. I feel like this will empower not only us, but also demystify what youth is and therefore open the space to other young fellows to come together in this, in this energy rather than the biased view of youth.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that, Ines. Tanya, anything you would want to add to that?
I think Ines really touched on the three most important points. I also believe in the intergenerational communication. So what we also learn is, yes, you need to talk from your expertise as a young professional, but you also need to be heard. And I think there is a bridge to take there to make sure that you are heard. And I hope within our organization, at least, we try to bridge that by having these kind of sessions, as well as to communicate broader on youth engagement. Unfortunately, in terms of accountability and indicators, Ines, we're not that far yet, but that is definitely also a step to consider in the future. But ideally, it comes from the different generations themselves by seeing the value of young professionals because of their expertise, indeed, and not because of their age.
Very nice. And the UN Water Conference is coming up very soon. Is there any way that that our panelists right now are engaging with that process? And have you heard about taking the youth on board in that conference? Tanya, Vivek, if you want to address that, Tanya.
Anybody wants to step in?
There's going to be plenty of
Yeah.
opportunities. I mean, we've already laid out such an agenda that we've launched, whether it's the YEP program or the Water Youth Agenda, AWDO, Fair Water. These all have elements of youth, high elements of youth participation in it. And all of this is building kind of a momentum for the UN conference in December. So, absolutely, the answer is a unequivocal yes, there is a role for youth.
Thanks, Vivek. And maybe to add, as mentioned already by Vivek, there is the Stockholm World Water Week coming up end of this month. And we will discuss potential milestones for meaningful youth engagement by the UN Water Conference December 2026 in our Inclusion Roundtable by ADB with 29 other organizations from NGO to government officials to private sector. So we hope we come in that, and there also be young people there, yappers actually. So I think we can use that roundtable also to define where we want to go after 2026. And there will be a youth session on the Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Together with UNESCO and several other organizations, where we will also discuss the roadmap towards the UN Water Conference in 2026. So on the short term, in a few weeks, we will also have activities in that regard.
Yeah, very nice. And I saw that Stockholm, like the organizers, have also curated sessions for young water professionals. I think to everyone in this call who are asking about that, you can also check out their website for that. And I think a final question, just so we manage the time for this webinar. Burning question is, if they're not part as young water professionals and they're not part of senior management, how can they influence workflows and make sure that young voices are embedded into the system? Perhaps a question for Erica and Ines as the young water professional and youth engagement consultants. Yeah.
Erica, do you want to go first or should I go first?
You can go first.
Okay. Well, I think one of them is find a person that is senior that is willing to support you. I think this is so crucial. And, I come from Portugal and I'm now in Denmark, and hierarchy is seen very differently. So I'm aware that making this connection might even, have people talk, oh, you're trying to jump and get a promotion or whatever when you try to engage with a senior. But if you find someone that aligns with your vision and your values, connect. And that will allow you to start to understand the business, create a safe space of interaction where you can, share your vision and have an honest feedback on what is the applicability. So that would be the first one. And the second, there's a lot of power on the operation level. I know that we always talk about the top-down approach, but there's a lot going on the bottom up. Just for you to have an idea, I was a fellow with Grundfos and the IWA Grundfos Fellowship, and then I got this job of managing actually the youth partnership. And one thing that I said was, I'm not going to give money to IWA in the initiative if we don't do the same internally. So if we are going to preach this externally and say that we support, I want to make sure that the graduates of Grundfos have equally opportunities to engage positively within the community. And this is at our reach, at our level. Understand what you can do within your scope and connect with someone senior to bring other ideas that are more visionary upwards, to try to inspire and bounce back ideas. Because some things that we thought people already thought about, and maybe they had a purpose of not working. So we need to learn from that as well, right? So it on the motto of Young Villa, it is on us, and don't be afraid to share what you're thinking, right? And do what you believe in. Let that transpire in conversations with seniors and in your workflow.
Yes. I do agree with Ines that we really need to get our champions. Like, we really need to know our champions who will be there to support us along the way, because each of the big organization will have their own bureaucratic processes, their own operations. But one thing that I will be talking about based on my experience is, if there is an opportunity for you to be part of something good, try to take it, because we don't know what will happen next. So just to give a background, I came from a grassroots organization before, and then it was invited with an ADB partnered event, and then that's where where my ADB journey has really started. So I think just say yes to those opportunities. They look for a champion or a mentor that could help you along the way. And lastly, there are a lot of spaces already for youth. Take the seat, but the question there is, how can you make that seat more meaningful, and at the same time, how could you own that seat and speak on behalf of other young people globally? So I think those are the things that I would like to advise to our young people here as we celebrate the International Youth Day. Over to you, Jihan.
Uh, Thank you very much. Very insightful answers and even sharing from our panelists. So I think my reflection for this session to close out the webinar is, when it comes to youth participation, I always think of Roger Hart's ladder and how youth participation exists as a spectrum. And while I was looking at the conversations that are being had about International Youth Day, I came across a very powerful one from a mentor, Yang Villa, who is with us in this webinar. And Meaningful Youth Engagement, MYE, he likened it to me, you, and everyone. So I'd like to think that it starts with me, giving young people the agency to think that their voice matters. It continues with you, the mentors, senior professionals, and institutions who are our allies, and who are there to provide leadership support. And it continues until we reach everyone, the highest rung of Roger Hart's ladder, where leadership is now shared. Inclusion of youth voices is really intentional, and our solutions are stronger. So with that, happy International Youth Day to everyone. Thank you to our panelists for making time to share their insights and their stories. To the Philippine Young Water Professionals TIRCO who are joining me today, helping out with organizing everything in the back end. Thank you so much. And so we always say, join us in the conversation, because it is important that we talk about meaningful youth engagement. And I hope this session left you inspired to pursue MYE, an MYE that works for me, you, and everyone. I'll hand over the session to Isabella for a few reminders and announcements from Iowa. Isabella, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jihan. And thank you everyone for staying with us during this webinar. It was amazing to see all these engagements in the chat and the interest in the program that we have. In IWA, we believe in partnerships. We believe in collaboration, especially if this means supporting young people. Can you move to the next slide? Thank you, Jihan. And thank you everyone for staying up. I saw some questions in terms of what comes next, what we have. So I want to invite all of you to attend our regional call. We empower young water professionals of IWA, YWP chapters in Asia and Pacific. We're going to be hearing some information about what the chapters in the region they are doing. So please do join. This event is free and you can register online to join. Next slide. And for those that are able to come to London, we will be hosting our event of Water Horizons, which is focused on water utilities. And we will have some young people as speakers attending. So I do recommend that you come and join it. Next. And I'm very proud to say that our biggest congress, one of our biggest congress, the Water Development Congress and Exhibitions, is going to be held in Bangkok in Thailand. So it's going to be held in Asia. And during this congress, we will be hosting the Emerging Water Leaders Forum, which is an event organized by young people for young people. This is part of our commitment, IWA commitment towards engaging young people in the water sector. So you can see here in the slide the program committee members, and they are the ones that are shaping the agenda and the activities that we're going to be hosting during this forum. The forum is part of the Congress, so you have to be registered to the Congress to attend the event. If you scan the QR code, you'll be able to see more information about it. Next. And we also have a digital water summit happening in Turkey. I saw a question about digitalization in the water sector and how to engage young people. So this might be one of the opportunities that you have to understand a little bit more how you can join this transformation journey that we are having in the water sector. And also about the World Water Congress that will be happening next year in Glasgow. And the World Water Congress is one of the Tier 1 events that we have, and it's going to be just before we start the UN Water Conference in December next year. So there's going to be a lot of discussions on how we can push water action towards the goals that we achieved, that we aim to achieve with SDGs and the 2030 agenda. Next. And if you are not a member of IWA, you can join our association. You can use the code that you are seeing in the slides to receive some discounts to become one of our members. Next. And some of the benefits that you can access by becoming a member. Next. And in case you have any questions regarding IWA and the membership, please feel free to send me an email. Here also on the screen, you can see about Daniela and Samuela. They are our director and manager, and they can help you to get engaged in the association. Thank you everyone for attending, and do explore our website for more information about our country chapters and our activities and contributions to our youth engagement in the water sector. And once again, happy International Youth Day. Thank you everyone.